Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making my version of pizza margherita. Uh, Margherita pizza is, so the story goes, something that was created in 1889 by Raffaella Esposito in Naples in honor of a visit by the Queen of Italy, Queen Margherita of Savoy. As a typical Neapolitan style thin crust pizza. The toppings would be, in Italy, it would be San Marzano tomatoes, mozzarella di bufala, buffalo mozzarella, and fresh basil. The green basil, the white cheese, the red tomatoes would signify the colors of the Italian flag. Again, generally a thin crust and a light and fresh pizza. My version I sort of call a loaded pizza margherita. I do use the traditional ingredients, although I use Roma tomatoes. The mozzarella is cow's milk mozzarella rather than buffalo. And it would be wonderful to have all garden fresh tomatoes, canned tomato sauce, fresh cheese from your local Italian market or local cheese merchant. What I'm using, I'm in Pennsylvania. It's the end of November. I'm going to use ingredients found in a typical supermarket. And again, I'm going to go kind of heavy on the toppings, as you'll see in a few moments when we get to the kitchen. So here we go, my version of margherita pizza. Alrighty, we're starting with a half a sheet pan. And of course, the first thing you need is the crust or the dough. Even before I got lazy and I used to make my own pizza dough, I generally, for a margherita, didn't use a homemade dough because the tomatoes had such a high liquid content that I couldn't keep the dough from remaining soggy. I couldn't get it to crisp up. After numerous experiments, what I had found for many years was the best dough for me was Pillsbury in a tube thin crust pizza dough. Since you pre-bake it, it doesn't stay soft, and it would hold up very nicely. Well, what happened was they changed it from thin crust or thin pizza crust to thin and crispy, and they reduced the size from an 11 ounce, which would fit perfectly when I rolled it out in this half sheet pan, to now an 8 ounce. It's going to be too small for the sheet pan. Also, when I found out what they had done, I went online and people said, I see here the baking instructions have changed, and people online commented that it doesn't taste the same either. So I'm not going to use it. Instead, I'm still going to go with the Pillsbury, but I'm going to go with the classic crust. This appears to be the same size as it was. We'll find out when we roll it out how it's going to work on the sheet pan. If it doesn't work, I do have a plan B, but we're going to go with this for now. So let's see what we got here. And there it is. Now we roll it out from the center to the outsides. using my mini pizza roller here. I think if I can stretch this out to fit this entire sheet pan, it'd be very similar to what the thin crust was to begin with. Now, a little tip, if as you're rolling, it wants to contract when you stretch it out, it bounces back. Let it sit out on the pan for about 10 minutes. It'll warm up a little bit, get closer to room temperature, and it'll be easier to stretch and it'll retain the shape. So I'll be back in about 10 minutes. Alrighty, it's holding its shape much better now. If after 10 minutes it still wants to spring back to its original size, then just give it another 10 minutes. Now this is ready to go, so we're going to put it in a 425 degree oven for 8 minutes. And it will shrink a little bit when you're pre-baking it as well. So we'll see you in 8 minutes. Alrighty, after 8 minutes, this is what you end up with. It can tend to billow a little bit in the middle, but now it will hold the toppings, hopefully without getting soggy. The last time I ordered a Margherita pizza in a restaurant, or a pizzeria I should say, they asked, do I want tomatoes or tomato sauce? I said, yes. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a layer of tomato sauce, pizza sauce. Nothing fancy. This is a store brand Wise pizza sauce. As I said in the intro, I'm using stuff that you could find at any supermarket. If you have a particular favorite name brand, or you are a canner and have some at home, all the better. This is what was available and what was inexpensive. It's a 14-ounce jar, and I generally on a pizza this size use about a half of a jar. Now I do a little seasoning. Just a little salt, or in this case, no salt. I use salt substitute. Some black pepper. A little onion powder. Some garlic powder. A little bit of oregano leaves. I'm not going to use dry basil because I'm using fresh basil shortly. Now, Here's where I do it a little different than the classic margarita. I'm going to do some layering. And first I'm going to have a layer of tomatoes here. These are Roma tomatoes. I'm filming this at the end of November, so they're maybe not as flavorful as you would get in summer, but they'll do. This doesn't necessarily have to look pretty because it's going to get covered. Next is the cheese. I prefer whole milk mozzarella, but I'm using just bagged store-bought shredded. Each one of these bags is approximately 2 cups of cheese. Use as much or little as you like, obviously. I like about 5 cups on a pizza this size. So in these 2-cup bags, about 2.5 bags. And there we go. Now, many will tell you, and I agree to some extent, to put the basil on after the pizza is cooked. But I do both. I put a layer of basil on now, and then more fresh basil when it comes out of the oven. Hard thing for me in this cold weather is keeping the basil from turning dark. Anybody watching has tips or tricks for that, please let me know. But I'm going to put the basil that already started to turn dark, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not as pretty looking. I'm going to put that on now and save the nicer looking basil for that fresh green look when it comes out. Now I'm going to take some more tomatoes and put them on the top. And while, of course, it does add flavor, it also adds visual appeal, because we eat, old saying, we eat with our eyes. So this is not going to be a complete coverage layer of tomato. These are just going to be spaced around to look pretty. If you're curious to the amount, that's a total of 7 Roma tomatoes that I ended up using on this dish. Now, I'm going to put this back into the 425 degree oven, anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, and it depends again on the day. So I'll let you know how long I end up leaving it in. I'll be back when it's done. I almost forgot one thing before I put it in the oven, and that is I like to put a little bit of minced garlic on top. And now we'll put it in the oven, and I'll be back when it's... I ended up leaving it in the oven for 15 minutes, but it's not quite done. Now I'm going to add another layer of basil for a couple of reasons. The fresh basil, of course, looks nicer, but also fresh basil and cooked basil will have both different texture and different flavor. I kind of like both. Now, of course, this basil won't cook, but left here a little bit on the hot pizza, it'll start to wilt. And now we'll let this sit for about 10 minutes and it'll be ready to cut and eat. And here it is, ready to cut and to eat. This, as I mentioned before, is a half a sheet pan, which is a 13 by 18 inch pan. I'm going to cut this into 8 slices. And there it is, all ready to go. This cost me approximately $14.10 to make. And the pizza in its entirety, and once again, a 13 by 18 inch pie, contains 2,900 calories. This, once again, is my version of the pizza margherita. Thank you as always for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.